Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ministry Mondays with Meg. I'm Meg. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We're glad that you found us, and welcome. So today, welcome to season 4, by the way. Today, episode 1 of season 4 is a good one. This one has actually been quite a while coming. We've made plans to do this a couple of times, and then the best laid plans, but that's okay. Because for today, I have my friend, my colleague, my classmate, who's been in midwifery for 42 years. Reverend, basically doctor, I'm just going to say, Vicki Penwell. Yay! Who's coming to us all the way from the Philippines? Yeah. So, thank you so much for doing this and being a part of the Megaverse or something like that.
Wow, it's a pleasure. I've been looking forward to it.
So, for those who don't know you, why don't you start by telling everybody a little bit about who you are, what you do, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Okay, well, I wear many hats, as you could tell from my introduction. I am an ordained minister with the Vineyard Christian Fellowship. I did seminary here in the Philippines ages ago, was ordained in the 90s. And as Meg mentioned, I'm just finishing up a doctorate in ministry now in her cohort at Central Seminary. But I also am a midwife. I have a master's in midwifery and have used that since 1981, I believe I started. So I have been working in healthcare ministry basically my whole life. And then along the way, because of this deep belief from the very beginning, just an awareness that there's not enough healthcare workers in the world and that midwives especially are in shortage globally. I've always been an educator. So started with simple apprenticeship with people, and then it grew into actually what we have now is a full Bachelor of Science accredited College of Midwifery in the U.S. that I oversee as the founder and executive director of Mercy in Action. I live in the Philippines, so I'm working more on the clinical side, training the trainers, leading from behind a whole national staff here, but then also still teach in the midwifery college, and still travel quite a bit to speak and teach around the world. So that's what I do. It's many different hats, healthcare, education, and then it's all ministry. So there is no really hat for ministry or for the God work. It's the box around everything.
So you are like exactly what this show is about. I mean, it's about ministry that happens beyond a church building.
Church walls,
Yeah, it's the ministry can be and is so many different things, and
right.
yeah, it's that heart that you put behind it.
It's the looking for me. It's always been the story of the Good Samaritan just captured my heart early on. And actually, I really had a word from the Lord way back in the 80s when I first, as an adult at 21, I was raised in a Christian home, have a wonderful heritage of good Christian people. I just wrote an article on Mary's song about His mercy goes on from generation to generation to those that fear the Lord. And I'm really so lucky I have that heritage. But like all of us, we have to come to our adult decision. So at 21, for me, I was very aware of the pain in the world, the sadness and the really heartbreak of the world at a young age. And it made me so sad that I really cried out to God one night and said, are you real here on earth, or is it only like in heaven? Am I going to have to wait for heaven to know that you know, to really experience you. And I feel like the Lord really visited me with his presence, and I felt so overwhelmed by it that I said, you know, what can I ever do for you? Like, now I know you're real and you're here. And I felt like the word that became my call was, go to those places that have always broken your heart and show them that I'm real here on earth, that the kingdom of God can come to earth. And so that started me on my path. Midwifery was what was in front of me at the time because I saw the need. I was actually in the Arctic at the time in Fairbanks, Alaska, living in a little cabin with no running water or electricity. And you know, having my own babies as a young woman. And I saw that there was so much need, that people really didn't have the healthcare they needed, and that they were not getting what they needed. And then very shortly after I had trained as a midwife, a man came to our church from Southeast Asia and said, the babies over here are dying. He had been in the country of Laos. This was kind of, you know, just a decade after the Vietnam War ended, and said that they have a 50% infant mortality rate over there. And I heard there were midwives in this church in Fairbanks. He actually came looking for me.
Wow.
Because we had a ministry that kind of, you know, the church was supporting there in Fairbanks. And so that was my call to go. And it broke my heart when I saw the needs of in those days, we called it, it was called the third world. Now we would say that, you know, a low income or low resource countries. But it was just devastating to me. And I knew I had to spend my life on that. And so my husband and I just upended our lives, sold everything we owned, and went off to do missions. And that was basically, you know, that's everything grew out of that. Eventually, Laos, the door closed there. It was a very, very you know, communist country in the early 90s. But a man from our church was from the Philippines, and he said, what about my country? Our mothers and babies are dying too. Would you come? And that was 1991. So that was when I first arrived on the shores of the Philippines, thinking we'd do a project, right? And it became a lifetime. That was, I think, 34 years ago now. We ended up bringing our kids over here, and then our kids got married, and some of my grandkids were born over here. At one point, we had 4 generations of our family living together here, and it became our adopted country. So, and what our methodology was always to work with the national healthcare workers, and then just, you know, build capacity and build them up. Look for the people that had the heart to serve, that had the heart of ministry, that could see the world through those eyes of the Good Samaritan, and then go looking for who had need. And so as a foreigner and a Westerner, that's still my role, is to support the national healthcare people, but also to give that piece of doing all this work as ministry, like that it's not a separate box. It's not healthcare and then maybe you say a prayer, or, you know, it's separate from what you do in church on Sunday. It's like completely integrated ministry. We are trying to be the hands and feet of Jesus, and we're giving away, as the call was in the beginning, the love of God, so that He is real to those that are most in need. And a lot of our, you know, where we work now, we serve a population that lives on the local landfill, the garbage dump. They literally scavenge for food and to eat and something to sell. And you can imagine how nasty that is when you're pregnant, that's your life. And so we don't just build, we do build birth centers, and they're licensed as small hospitals and acknowledged by the government, but we also do tons of home visits and outreach everywhere the most poor populations are. We're on 3 islands at this point. We've been on more and started more clinics that we turned over to other people. But we just go out and like walking that Samaritan road, finding who's broken and beat up by life and half dead, and then we try to just stop it.
So you've got mother babies, right? And you're not, you guys don't do like the whole family though, right? We are focused on maternity care. Okay.
And that is true. So we have a first 1,000 days program where it starts, the first 1,000 days of a person's life starts at conception and then goes till their second birthday. So that's our main focus, is that we take people through pregnancy, through a safe delivery, and then follow up their children until they're 2 years old. And then we have a big graduation for them, because now they've got a really great start in life. But by necessity, we do family health. We respond to natural disasters. We have a lot of them here in this country. And if we find a family that's like unhoused, we're going to help them have a home. If they need jobs, we're going to connect them to livelihood programs that maybe other ministries have, connecting everybody to their local resources, their local church, other ministries. So mostly our focus is maternal child care, but it sometimes gets broadened just by the circumstances. Like when we have a typhoon or an earthquake, we end up suturing and setting bones and doing all kinds of things, maybe, or having, at least we bring people alongside us to do those things. Don't do them all ourselves, because our staff is mostly midwives and then community health workers we've trained. We do have nurses and doctors that intersect with us and that volunteer, and that we do things side by side. So, yeah.
Okay. So I know, with Laos and that whole situation, but as you've been in the Philippines, has the government been supportive of?
Yes, actually. So we borrowed a concept from, it actually came originally from Latin America, the concept of accompaniment, and then there's a doctor, it actually just passed away recently. It was a great humanitarian, Paul Farmer, and he really picked this up and wrote a lot about the concept of accompaniment. But it is the concept that you walk alongside people that need help, and whether that's an individual patient or an individual disaster survivor, or whether it's a government of a country that is very poor and they literally don't have the resources to provide what they need. So we do work closely with our local governments. We are have a good relationship with the mayor, with the government hospitals. We buy sometimes, especially training equipment for them, and help them bring people over to, maybe, again, bring up the level of the whole maternity care system in the Philippines. So we're very collaborative and cooperative in that way with anybody else that's trying to help mothers and babies survive. We're going to work with them and never compete with them. And so that's a new concept here. And we always get a lot of surprise when we're new in a community. They're just like, wait, what? You're giving us something, you're, sharing your resources. But yeah, that's what we do. We want to help accompany the people, but also the others that are trying also to. Yeah. So.
And if I remember right, like in your story, isn't there, like, I don't know if it was somebody from your church, but didn't you have, like, was it Doctors Without Borders or the ship, or for people who needed bigger things that couldn't be provided in?
Yeah, we do a lot of cross, transfer of ministries. We did a big disaster response 11 years ago. We had a couple of islands that were wiped out by a huge super typhoon, and we went down there and responded. And yes, one of the people we worked closely with was Doctors Without Borders and UNICEF and Samaritan's Purse, and some of the big, ones that came to also respond to that disaster. So we worked with them. And then we recently had a baby born with a cleft palate just last month. And so we refer them to like Operation Smile or one of those kind of ministries, that come to the Philippines. And when we do have a baby born with a birth defect, we're going to, again, accompany the family all the way through what it takes to have that repaired or taken care of. And sometimes that means just taking cash and paying for a hospital to do it, but sometimes it means connecting them to a ministry like Smile Train or Operation Smile or something like that. So, yeah.
That must mean so much to people that that you're not just like, okay, well, we're going to get you through this baby, and then at your 6
Goodbye.
weeks postpartum, kind
Yeah,
of, but that it's more of the family, that relationship, that we're in this
we're
together,
in this
kind of.
together for the
Yeah,
long haul. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and to give families to think long term, which is also a shift away from there's a natural kind of fatalism in the culture here, but to get people to um, we use the phrase Imago Dei a lot. We actually named our newest birth center Imago Dei Health and Birth Center, which it's funny because it's a Latin word, so it's foreign, but people really get that concept. Oh, the baby is created in the image of God, so
Mm.
therefore it's very, very precious, and God cares about it. And that has really resonated with people, both our staff and the patients. And then we kind of have carried not just getting through the pregnancy and the birth, but again, if we can keep these children from being malnourished in the first 2 years, then that's when all the brain growth is happening. That's when all
Mm.
those billions of neurons are expanding. And that's the time it's most dangerous in your whole entire life to be
Mm.
malnourished. Or not be cared for well. So we really, really focus on that time and get parents to realize what they can do, that they can make choices with their very minimal money that they have, but they could buy an egg instead of a Coke, for instance. And we have a whole program where we give every baby a book, and we have
Mm.
parents read to them. And we're just really trying to get them to invest in their child at a young age, because here the tradition is more like, well, you don't even name your child when it's born because you don't know if it'll survive. You wait a little while. You never would pick a name ahead of time. That would be like so just unheard of. But then you don't really start investing in even good nutrition for them until they start school. But we know from the science of how fetuses grow and how brains grow and how human beings are perinatal brain developers, that the time in the womb of having good nutrition, and then the breastfeeding at birth, and then getting good healthy food all the way through the second in the second year, is
Yeah.
that's 90% of the brain is growing during that period of time. So that's why we focus on that so heavily. And parents are starting to get it. They're starting to believe it and really think, oh, they're breastfeeding longer. They're
Um,
making wiser choices with their children. And of course, we track all of this in growth charts. So every month the child is weighed. Every month the parents are asked about developmental milestones. And then we can intervene super quickly if they start to, fall off of the road to health, as it were, on the WHO charts that we use. So yeah, it's a whole thing of not just providing healthcare, but again, that accompaniment piece of our midwives coming alongside the parents and saying, we're gonna walk you through till your child is kind of out of the woods of those first 1,000 days. That's the most dangerous time for not only survival, but for long-term thriving and intelligence and all those things.
I can't imagine not giving my child a name. I mean, I can't
Yeah.
imagine.
It struck me at first when I first came here 34 years ago, was that kind of really struck me too, is that we have this I don't know what you would call it, confidence or just, like, oh, we're going to have a baby, we're going to pick names. And of course, back in my day when I was having my kids, we didn't find out gender. So you just we'll pick a boy and a girl name and, use one of them. But here, no, that would be considered so arrogant and so just almost tempting fate, because you don't know if they'll survive. And so you can even tell you're making progress if parents, even when the day the baby's born, they name it that day and don't wait for several days. That means they've had more confidence that they really think it's going to survive. Yeah.
So, what is
So,
the survival rate? Because I mean, like, what were you looking at?
yeah, it is not good in this country. All the countries of the world are measured by the United Nations on meeting For many years, we were using something called the Millennial Development Goals, and then we passed that, and a lot of countries didn't. That was up in 2015, and they didn't make their goals at all. So we have something called the Sustainable Development Goals, and we're shooting for the year 2030. Any countries that are not meeting their goals are these special targeted countries that we need to give more attention to, and certainly the Philippines is on that list. Where the maternal mortality rate, the women dying in childbirth is way too high, and the children dying either at birth or within the first 30 days is just way too high. A lot of progress has been made on child survival in the world. But what happened is then my work became even more important, because when we look at pie charts now, when they sort out the neonatal deaths, which is in your first, 28 days of life, your first month, those now take up almost 50% of all the under 5 deaths. So that means that we've made good progress with older children through different programs, and the time of birth, dying on the day you're born or within the first month of life is just really way too high. I'm proud to say that Mercy in Action has got something right, because we have kept statistics on all this, almost 18,000 births, and our statistics are 4 times better than the country we're in. So we have 4 times more survival of mothers and 4 times more survival of babies. We just had a PhD researcher run all of our stats for us and put them on graphs, and it's really impressive compared to the country how many lives we're saving. And we're doing it through this very simple methodology of just protecting natural birth, like not over intervening or over interfering when birth is working, because we believe that's God's design. But then also teaching all of our midwives have very quick emergency response if there's a complication, if something goes wrong. If the baby doesn't breathe at birth, or if the mother starts to bleed after birth, and they react really quickly. So it's the combination of those two, of teaching people to not interfere when it's working, and then to, intervene very, very quickly when something goes wrong with the natural process, that I believe is getting us our great statistics. And not to mention the love that we give. And I don't even know how you measure that, but every woman is just her dignity is respected. She is prayed for. She is treated as very special. The poorest woman gets treated like the richest woman would get treated when she's in labor and having a baby. And that stands out in this country, because that's not usual. That's usual that the lower you are down the socioeconomic scale, the worse you're going to be treated, or maybe be denied care altogether. So. Yeah, so our centers are always free. There's never any charge to the patient, because we don't want any barriers at the door, and no one's discriminated against, no matter what.
and so your funding just comes from, is this fundraising? Is this?
Yeah, that's a great question. Great question. So for probably 25 years here in the Philippines, we had to support everything with donations. Now the Philippines does have an insurance scheme called PhilHealth, and we can bill for the births that we do. It doesn't cover all the expenses, so we still need to subsidize it with donations. And then we have just been really fortunate that we have a very successful college in America that also has income from tuition. So like all of our Western staff salaries are covered by the college. So basically, when someone gives a donation to Mercy in Action, it all goes 100% to the work in the Philippines. Nothing pays for electricity or rent or for a salary for the directors or anything else. It just goes straight to the source. So we're really proud of that our college helps subsidize, like our people that work on the global side as well. And then we do have the ability to bill insurance in the country, because we get our facilities accredited, so they can do that.
And
without the donations, it wouldn't be the same. I do have to say that, like anything, and like when you have a program that covers something for poor people, it usually isn't enough to give them care at a high standard.
Mm.
Like clinics that only get PhilHealth, they oftentimes they reuse gloves, they wash them out and use them again. They don't have sheets for the bed. They might not have a mattress for the bed. They don't have soap in the bathrooms. We never want to run a facility like that. So our donations are very important to us to keep not only the lights on, but everything like I said, this is the best facility that the president of the Philippines' wife or daughter would be happy to deliver in. It's beautiful, it's clean, it's well stocked. And then that's what we have to offer the poorest woman that lives on a garbage dump or in a fishing village with no, plumbing, and she comes into a beautiful place to be able to get her care and give birth. So.
And I read, I was reading the website, I was going to Mercy in Action and read, about the college, and, I've had the privilege of spending the last, almost 3 years, learning some, but not nearly enough, and being able to see some of it on Facebook, and just puts it all like together in this beautiful picture. But I loved on there how, sure, there's the place if you want to make donations, but there's also, if you're a knitter or a crocheter and want to do baby, so it's like there's something for everybody. It doesn't, it's not, but it's not always, gobs of money, or
Yes. So every baby that's born, and at this point we have probably 30 to 50 a month, they all get a homemade little knit baby hat. That's like our special gift, our trademark. Babies now in the community, everyone will point to them and go, "Oh, they were born at Mercy in Action. They have one of those beautiful little knit caps." And our knitters are all the way from like 8 years old to 80 years old. Like I think my aunt was still knitting hats for us when she was in her early 90s. And one of our staff, I have an intern here now, his great grandmother is still making hats for us. So yes, we always love it when people make hats. Some of the babies I delivered back in Alaska that are 40 years old now are making hats and sending them over here. So there's this really fun connection to the hats. So if any of your listeners want to make hats, they can go to our website and see the address to send them. And the hats have a double purpose. For one, a lot of our people don't even have baby clothes. So it's a gift that stands out to people that don't have a lot. But also hypothermia in newborn is one of the causes of death. And we are in the tropics, but it gets cool at night, especially this time of year. And the head of a newborn baby is very vulnerable. And so to have a little cap is part of our newborn survival program too. So
it's lovely. It's just lovely. And I'm thinking, I was looking for like a project after I finished this dissertation.
Yes.
I've missed knitting, and I'm like, ooh, now I can knit with a purpose. So
that'd be so fun. And I would be so blessed. It would just blow my mind to be over here and get a little hat from Meg. Like, oh, I would tell everybody, somebody loves you. And
you wait.
Doesn't even know you, but they love you and your baby.
Oh my God. That's what's beautiful about all of it. Like, you gave up life and the known for this unknown in the Philippines, because somebody says, "Hey, we need you," because God called you and you said, "Here I am, send me." I mean, that's and
part of that story, Meg, that I forgot about was that we have a diploma in international maternal child health, as well as our 4-year college of midwifery, and that we have people in all over the globe. Well, anyway, one of our students who graduated, I just remembered this connection because I told you the story about being somebody coming getting me and taking us to Laos first, and then that door
Yeah.
closing all those years ago. And coming to the Philippines was like the Macedonian call, you know, where Paul said, the Bible says the Spirit of God kept him out. He was trying to go somewhere, and then this angel came and said, will you come here? And I just remembered that we had a student from our diploma program just last year graduate, and she and her husband, who's a doctor and she's a midwife, they moved to the country of Laos. So it's like the full circle now that I
wow.
that went back to Laos. So yes, God is concerned about the whole world.
That is the coolest thing like ever, really.
Put that connection together just now, and I was like, wow, that is cool. Okay.
I mean, yeah, that's all. I see. I love
all
that.
we can do is follow God as we understand the call and as we see the doors open in front of us. But we don't know what's ahead if only we're faithful, and if we continue to do it for a lifetime. Which now I have, you know, my grandkids are all teenagers or adults, and they're coming over here to spend time and serve. And yeah, I'm really seeing full circles.
So that's what I wanted to ask, kind of talk about. Like, this is a whole family affair, right, for you?
Yeah. So my son, he was 6 when we started coming. He's now the president of Mercy in Action. And he's the son that some of his kids were born over here, and they're back in the States now, but he's the president of the organization. All my children are connected in one way or another, supporters, or come over here and serve at some time. And then all the grandkids also, which is really a blessing for me, because like I talked about, coming from this legacy of the generations of serving the Lord, and now I'm seeing it going down the generations too. All my kids and grandkids love the Lord and are looking for ways to serve. And that's the best at my age, to be able to see that and be in ministry and have those, you know, PK, MK, you know, those initials. Like, there can be some bitterness among missionary kids or pastors' kids. And I have to say that, not that their lives were easy, but they haven't turned away from the Lord or from serving. So that makes me very, very happy.
Oh, so are you I know your son's the president. So then are you like
I'm the executive director, founder and executive director. Yes.
So, and you still do teaching back in the States as well, or is it all?
Well, yes, I do. We're so connected now, aren't we? We're doing this from across the world.
Right.
I teach in college, but mostly online. I do go back occasionally for something that's in person. And then I also speak in different places in the world. I get asked to speak in different countries. And again, sometimes that's online and sometimes it's in person. But I am still traveling to do that. Yes, as long as my body holds out. You know, it's got a lot of miles on it at this point. But I'm still traveling. But also during COVID, the world just opened up online, and I would be like speaking somewhere in Africa one day and the next day in Norway, and it was just kind of crazy, you know, how connected the world got. So
yeah, I can't imagine you slowing down, retiring, what that would even look like. I mean,
tell him, Dad, I hope I can keep going. That would be great.
Yeah. So has there been like a big a big something that when you're like, what have you learned? I mean, I'm sure you've learned so much, but is there like
so much. And doing this doctorate degree in the last couple of years, I loved all of our classes that were on leadership. I loved the creativity of some of the books we read. I just feel like my mind was expanding, and that whatever years God has left for me to live and lead, I want to do it to the absolute best of my ability, which is why I took that course. And I was happy. I also feel really humbled by the fact that Mercy in Action has become a model at this point. Like, people do want me to talk about our outcomes, and people are wanting to find out how to replicate the model. And we have an event once a year over here where we have people come from all these different countries, and they want to do something similar, and they just want to see it on the ground for 10 days. It's called Experience the Model. and we just like try to show them hands on everything. We had people from Madagascar and Haiti and India and all these different places, and they're all taking it back. And then I was talking about, speaking. People are asking me, like, just share your model, and would you go talk to this, either a school or a hospital here, there. I feel very humbled by that, and I feel like I want to give away what I have learned. That would be a good use of my time for, at this stage of my life. Not just the people right in front of me here locally, but whoever's interested. And writing the dissertation that I wrote made me, again, have more vision for, we really have hit upon a model. And if anyone's interested in that, I would love to, share it far and wide, because we have proof that it's working. We've been able to keep statistics, and even those statistics I just mentioned went on a slide and were presented to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation earlier this year, because somebody said, we need to share that you can get those kind of outcomes right in the middle of the poorest population in a poor country. And so, yeah, I think what I'm feeling right now is keep learning, but also give away everything that I've learned along the way. And I don't want to be holding any of it still inside when I die, so that it really can hopefully help in some small way, throw a ripple out in the crisis that is global maternal child health care, but is also the crisis of people not being cared for. And that, I feel like that spiritual piece of it, that's so important too, that women having babies and families growing their families would feel loved and cared for, rather than being turned away and rejected because they don't have the ability to pay. So that's what I'll just keep working on as long as I can.
And all of these things that you've had the opportunity to go to, has there been like a person that you've met that has been like, now that was a really cool individual? Like, has there been?
Yeah. I get so inspired by young people. I get so inspired. All these missionaries that we had come, last year to our experience, the model, learn and serve, they are always writing me and saying how they're using this now in Haiti or Madagascar or in India or all the different places they went back to. And that really blesses me. It gets me excited. Our college is full of, young, passionate people as young as, 19, 20, and they have a vision for their life. And I mean, I know some of them won't do it. Some of them will just have dreams and never do it. But I was that age once, and I had those dreams when I was 19, 20. I started this ministry at 21. So, I mean, it's like, I believe in the young people that they can, if they have the right, if they have the grit, really, to keep going when life gets hard and kicks them down over and over. Because my life has not been all successes by any means. I mean, we have had clinics that have been destroyed by fire, by flood, by corruption. We have dealt with so many painful things. Not to mention that we can't save everyone. Yes, we have great statistics, but we still have to go through the heartache of those times, a baby doesn't survive, and go through the grief. We accompany the family through that. So it all takes a toll. And working cross-culturally is exhausting. It's not easy. So all of those things, if somebody that really gets a word from the Lord and has the call, and then if they just stick with it, I want to be their cheerleader. I want to be the one that they know believes in them, because that was me. I started so young and so, had all these ideas in my mind, and yes, life is way harder than any of us assume, but God is so big. And when he asks you to do something like, will you go to these places that always broke your heart and tell them that I'm real, then how could I not? Like, that, to me, serving is my expression of my love for Jesus, pure and simple. And so, yeah.
And we don't even have time to like tell the half of what all you have, I mean, and I look at you and I see like a model of resilience, somebody who just keeps going.
Hope so. Yes, that would be a good word.
And I mean, because none of us really know what anybody has gone through. I mean, those who know you know about your husband, your partner, all of this passing away.
That's
I mean,
hard. Of all the hats and titles I'm wearing, recent widow is the one I like the least, I have to say. But yeah, he gave me so much every day. I thank him for everything that he helped me put in place, and I just keep going forward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like resilience. I mean, you are just a
The funny thing
beautiful.
is that's a choice, because I actually got a chance to go back and be the guest speaker for one of our courses that we took at Central Seminary. And one of the students asked me at the end, when they were supposed to ask questions,
Yeah.
it's like, do you ever feel like giving up? And I'm like, yeah, like just yesterday I was ready to give up everything. And I just wanted them to know that feeling like giving up is not the same as giving up.
Giving up. Right.
Right. Like
that's not usually that question I ask, but it's a fair question.
Resilience doesn't mean that you didn't want to give up maybe every day. We have a joke in our family that we're the never say die Penwells, but like, how many times have I wanted to just give up and throw the towel in? It's like, yeah, sometimes.
All the times, yeah.
Right.
On a daily basis,
but you don't. There's something. It's that flame, I think, of the call, when you know that Jesus is real here on earth, and that he really, really cares about the marginalized people. And besides the story of the Good Samaritan, the other one that absolutely breaks my heart is where Jesus says, what you did to the least of these, you did for me. And so I feel closest to him when I'm with the poorest people, and in their little shacks, or when I'm walking the landfill, or just the kind of nasty places of the earth, but I see the people and they're so happy that someone loves them. And I just feel that's where I feel, closest to God. So that holds me on days when it gets hard.
Yeah. Wow. So about the joy question, what is the thing that brings you joy?
Besides serving people, which always brings me joy, I have to say, in the moment, sunsets. I love a sunset. Baby's first cry. I just got to experience somebody hearing a baby's first cry for the first time, and they went, "That's the most amazing sound." And I realized that now my joy is in hearing somebody else experience the magical mystery of a baby's first cry. And I'm finding so much joy in mentoring the next generation, that to me now is better than doing whatever it is. I just feel real joy in pushing people forward, and saying, I learned to do this at a young age, you can too. That's given me the most joy right now, I think, is mentoring. Yeah.
I mean, I can't wait for you. Are you going to write a book? I mean,
I am working on it. I decided to start it when the dissertation was finished, which I've now done. I resisted for decades. People told me to write a book, and I didn't want it to be some sort of a vanity project, or a memoir type thing. But now I feel like we have been asked so many times to share our model that now I feel like it's definitely time to put that model in writing. So if I say this out loud on this podcast, then I'm going to have to do it. So I'm saying it out loud. I already have a title. I already have chapters outlined. And yes, I am writing a book. So that more people can follow the model or be inspired by it in some way. And I also want people that aren't even healthcare workers to realize how they could impact survival of mothers and babies too. And that you don't have to be a nurse or a doctor. You just have to care. So yeah, it's coming.
It's coming, folks, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to make sure that we've got the Mercy in Action website listed, and
great.
all your put a link to the Facebook page. It's just
write to me if anyone's interested in the work we do. I love to.
Yeah, and I think it's just phenomenal. All this work that you have done and continue to do, and that there are days that you're done, but nevertheless, you keep going. And like, for those who don't know Vicki, like, Vicki is like, she had to have her assignment like done. I mean, and you can see like the train of thought, like, I have this thing and this thing, so I have to do it here. Like, the discipline that you go just to accomplish these things that you want to accomplish, and that each and everything has meant so much along the way. And did you say it's coming up on 18,000 babies?
Yes. And I think that's part of, an on-call life, is that you never, like, when we had assignments for our schooling in the last couple of years, I felt like, well, I never know if I'm going to be on call for something, so I better get it done the week ahead. It's part of that. It's part of that living a life that's totally unknown all the time, because you don't know when somebody will be in labor, or when the next natural disaster will happen, or whatever.
Right. Right, because babies and death are never convenient. I mean, really? I mean,
that's right.
They just aren't. So I am grateful for you for giving your time to
you. I'm grateful for you wanting to share our story, and I'm so impressed with your Ministry Mondays. From the minute you described it, I was like, yes, this is the way to get connection out in the world. I love it.
And we will get your t-shirt to you, but actually, I mean, you're a part of the whole Ministry Mondays with Meg, because it was born in our very first class.
How fun.
Yes, with Dr. Greg Hunt, who was my dissertation.
It's wonderful, and I so appreciate being a guest. Like, I'm honored. Thank you very much.
It is the thing that brings me joy. So I am grateful, and grateful to have you here, to hear a piece of your story, to share that with others, and to share with our listeners, our viewers around the world now, which is just crazy. So it's been a big blessing. So thank you so much. And we're grateful for everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.